Welcome in. We are going to get started right away because I want to keep this short, concise, and to the point, but give you a lot of value. So, this webinar, this training, masterclass is completely free. It's called How to Stop Worrying What Other People Think. So, this is for you if you are a person who has anxiety or overthinking and you know that it's wasting your energy because you're worried about what other people think and it gets in the way of you doing things in your personal life, your business life, and honestly, you spend a lot of time overthinking and worrying. So, before we dive in, what I want to do is honor some celebrations. One of the things I like to do for my coaching calls for my clients is to celebrate. So I'm going to share some celebrations for some people I posted. I asked them what their wins were, and we're going to celebrate some of those wins. And you can also feel free to type them in the chat. I know there's a delay, so I will read those as they come in. One of the things I'm celebrating is my hair has grown. I cut it in December and it was so short. I was so mad. I had to cut like 3 inches off. And I looked at it today because I straightened it and it looks long again. Yay. So that's my win. Not business related, not but surely life related. Okay, so we have Tristina says one of her wins is realizing and integrating the difference between caring and carrying in life and in business. I can care deeply and still refuse to carry that which is not mine. I think that's such an amazing takeaway and just a noticing of carrying emotional burdens. Jessica said growth in business and in knowledge. So she's celebrating growth in business and in knowledge. I think it's always important to notice the growth in knowledge because that will reflect, if you apply it, that will reflect in your results. And then Beth says she launched her children's book. So I wanted to celebrate those things before we dive in because this is actually part of the process of recovering from people pleasing and perfectionism. So let's dive in. If you do not want to feel broken and angry anymore, resentful anymore for letting people step over your boundaries, if you want to have a drastic change in your relationships without feeling worried about disappointing people, or if you want to feel a true sense of power, you're like, I want to step back into my power and truly know your gifts and own them, then that's what we're going to talk about today. This isn't for you if you're not willing to be honest and take an honest look at yourself. And if you're not willing to really like show up, listen, engage, and really apply this. And I will be giving you an insanely valuable offer through this training as well. So I want you to think about Oprah. This is one of my favorite examples because if you think about Oprah's story, she, at the time when she was growing up, she didn't have anybody else that looked like her. She also had like a history of abuse. And I want you to think about what would happen if the world didn't have Oprah. Right? Like just think about her show and how it impacted you. Like most of us in the millennial generation or older, like grew up with Oprah on the TV. So I want you to imagine if she worried about what people thought, how much value we wouldn't have as a society. And I always like to look at people as mentors. They don't need to be famous, but I just like to look at them as examples. So just take a moment and think about that. And now think about for you, what potential are you still leaving on the table? How are you playing small? How are you not reaching out for help because you're afraid of being judged or afraid of being seen? I really want you to think about zooming forward to your life. I do this a lot to myself. I imagine being 80 or 90 years old at the end of my life. And then I imagine thinking, what if I didn't write the book? What if I didn't do the video? What if I didn't share my story? What if I passed away and ended up in the graveyard on my deathbed, knowing that I had not lived up to my potential because I was worried about what other people think? And so this is relevant for you if it's personal choices, like the way you're parenting your children that may be different. Maybe it is religious or spiritual choices. Maybe there's differences from the way you were raised. Maybe it's doing something, a completely different career, like just saying, you know what, I'm up and changing careers in my midlife. Maybe it's leaving up a partnership or relationship. This is really the time to ask yourself the question, like, what does success truly mean to me? And I like to define success and sovereignty. So most of us have grown up being told what success is. You get straight A's, you go to college, you become a good athlete, you get married, you have the white picket fence. Like we are told what to do. And then if that doesn't work out for us or we're doing it quote unquote wrong, we can end up judging ourselves. So this is a really good time to think about like what is my definition of success? And this is an opportunity by the end of this training to redefine your definition of success. Now, sovereignty comes from within. Sovereignty is knowing that you have internal power to decide your life. Now, of course, we always have external influences. We're going to have our past. We're going to have socioeconomic status. We're going to have however we grew up, the limitations that we were grown up with, whether it was actual financial limitations or mindset limitations, or somebody didn't teach us how to do math or how to save money, right? Of course, we all have those limitations depending on what opportunities we were given. But the remarkable thing about sovereignty is you now have the power of choice to decide what you're going to do and to really trust that that choice coming from within is aligned. And it's okay that other people may not like your choices in life. So let's break down the main problems that I see. And you might resonate with one of these. And if you do, feel free to type into the chat and agree, or feel free to follow along and take notes. The first one is the problem with perfectionism. So perfectionism is wanting to be seen as perfect and also expecting your life to look perfect. The problem with this is you don't want anyone to see that you're actually a mess behind the scenes. And this was definitely true for me when I went to a retreat in Bali in 2018. This is one of my transformational moments in life. I, from the outside, looked really good. I was in health and fitness. I was fit, but I was miserable. And I was in a narcissistic relationship. And I was struggling with low self-worth as I was trying to build my business. And I went to that retreat being willing to ask for help and being willing to be seen in a vulnerable, weak state. And there was something transformational that happened for me at that retreat. I went there with 3, what I would call high achievers, high performing male coaches. I was intimidated by them. And I remember at the end of one of their sessions, we were all invited to share what was coming up for us. And I did not want to share. In fact, I felt nauseous, but I thought, you know what? I paid $5,000 to be here. I'm going to show up, play full out, be honest, be vulnerable, get the coaching that I came for because I want to get the transformation that I came for. And so I grabbed the microphone. My knees were shaking. I felt like throwing up at that moment. My body was getting hot. And I looked at one of the coaches in the front of the room and I just said, the one thing that I want, like the thing that I came here for, that I'm realizing I really want, is for you to tell me I'm doing a good job and approve of me. I just want you to, like, some validation. And I remember the coach just kind of looked at me with a blank stare, not saying anything, which now I know that it's intentional. It's called holding space. It's really just allowing somebody to share their truth. And what I was asking for, he didn't give me. He didn't say, oh, great job, great for sharing, right? Like, because that would have created the pattern that I continued to seek male validation. And so I sat down feeling super vulnerable, started crying on the chair. My knees were shaking even more now. And I just cried and cried and cried because I realized that in that moment, I didn't need anyone else's approval. And I will share in a few moments after I share all the problems, I'm going to share another story that came full circle for me recently that you probably know and understand, right? Typically, we're looking for approval from authority figures, right? Parents, teachers, grandparents, mentors, sports coaches, right? Whoever we think, quote unquote, has the authority to tell us we're doing a good job, we're literally brainwashed and trained to seek out that validation, right? We want to get good grades. We want to be the scholar athlete. We want to be the MVP. We want to make these authority figures proud of us. But the solution to that is self-love, self-acceptance, and self-validation. And we'll go into that a little bit more in the future. But that's what I want you to know is that when you can get this from yourself, when you fully accept yourself, you know that you're going in the direction of your dream, in your alignment, of your desires. When you can literally think to yourself, I don't give a fuck what anybody else says. It can feel dramatic to like see that, or to say that, but for some people, you really need that energy to activate you to move forward. Otherwise, you stay stuck and frozen. All right, the second problem, this one is a people pleasing problem. So people pleasing, very similar, right? Perfectionism is like, let me be perceived perfect, therefore I don't get rejected. The people pleasing is really spending all of your energy trying to influence the way other people think about you because you want them to see you in the best light. You want them to feel pleased and happy. You want to meet their standards so you get positive feedback. But the problem with this is we will do this even when it means abandoning yourself. And I know this all too well. I did this for 9 years in a relationship. I didn't speak up for what I wanted. I didn't advocate for myself. I just went along with what he said. I dressed the way he wanted me to dress. I asked him about what I should be doing in my career and business. And that's when I realized I can't keep doing this because if I'm going to build a business and a future and a 6-figure business, this person will not, like being with this person will not allow me to get there. And so I left that relationship and I ended up building a 6-figure business. But it took me 4 years of coaching to be able to leave that relationship. The reason I say that is because I don't want you to beat yourself up if you're noticing this in yourself, because this would be a lifelong pattern and habit that probably came from some type of childhood relationship, childhood dynamic. And I'll stop here and say this too. When we're talking about life coaching and therapy, life coaching is like going back and unpacking all the trauma from the past and like healing it and understanding it. And there's value in that, especially if you're like really below baseline and these things are actively still affecting you. But when we think about life coaching, and this is something that I think is transformational, especially if you have a background of things that have happened to you in your past. Life coaching is focused on the future. What do you want? Who do you want to be? How do you want to behave? What values do you want to embody? What do you want to achieve? How do you want to show up in the world, even though those things happen to me? So what we do here is we diminish the old story and we highlight and tell a new, more powerful story. So with that, that's what I want you to start thinking of. Are you willing to continue to abandon yourself, your values, your wants, your desires, your vision, your dream because of what somebody else is telling you? And I don't think it's a great way to go because what I notice is the more we do that, the more time passes us by. And I've had people reach out to me, they book a consultation, we get on the phone and they're saying, yeah, I've wanted to start a business for 5 years, but my spouse says that like maybe I'm trying to be creative and I can just do creative things around the house. And I think about how they might have this dream and vision inside them, but because of what their family says, their spouse, their best friend, they may die with that dream inside of them. And there's one thing that motivates me, and it's just like, I'm here to play full out. Like at the end of my life, I want to say I went for it, which means I failed more than 1,000 times. That's what it means to really, really go for it. And that is what I believe life is worth living. Like, let's not play it safe. Let's not play small. Let's not play life to please other people. Let's think about pleasing some of you would say Heavenly Father, right? Like God, the will of the universe for our life. Like, are we living up to our potential, which is way grander than pleasing the people in our immediate circle? And the reason I say this is being in your dharma, being in your purpose doesn't necessarily mean people will be pleased. That may not be your highest service. Your highest service may be doing something absolutely different because it's going to have the most impact on the community, on the world, on other people in a positive way. So you want to think about, how can I impact others? How can I align myself to this mission that I have and stop worrying about the people? And I don't want to say they don't matter, but their opinion doesn't matter in relation to your mission. Okay? Your opinion doesn't matter in relation to your mission, period. All right. Now let's talk about the next problem. The next problem is being a high achiever. So being a high achiever It simply means that your identity is like, I am an A plus student. I always overachieve. I'm always winning. And of course, you've all heard this quote, you're either winning or learning. But I will tell you, like, I was born with this condition. And then I think it got like definitely nurtured. I remember being in 5 years old in first grade, yeah, first grade, so 6 years old maybe. And we had this art project, and I was always the last one done on my art projects because I was really creative, but I also took a lot of time and I wanted it to be good. And I remember making this stuffed paper fish. It was like this big. And I remember having this vision that I was going to splatter it with markers. And when it was done, I did not like the way it looked. And so I spent all that time. I was so mad and I threw it away. And I was like, I don't want to see this as trash. That like that tweak, that pattern, I still have it. I feel the same way about my first book. I'm about to do my second book, and there's this part of me that's just like, ugh, I don't like this, right? And imagine being a high achiever is identifying with like, I should always be achieving. I also remember growing up playing sports, and I was like, no, we're not here to have fun. We are here to win. And there would be other people on my team. I was co-captain of the volleyball team, and there was the other co-captain was like very like, we're just here to have fun. I was like, no, we're here to win. So that's what a high achiever is. A high achiever is like, if we're winning, then we're happy. If we're losing, we are miserable. It feels like shit. So we really have to think about, where did that come from? Is that really how I want to live my life? Did that come from external, or is that something like that's just innate in me? And we want to learn how to stop beating ourselves up for not hitting the mark every single time. And truly learning to love comes right back to self-love. Love yourself while you're experiencing the losses, the failures, the falling down over and over again. And then the final problem is when you have ridiculously high standards. So ridiculously high standards is that like perfectionist high achiever thing, but it's like you overcommit, right? So you say yes to volunteering at church. You say yes to helping a friend move. You also know you have to drive kids around town. You're also like, yes, I'm going to clean the entire house all day long. The house is going to be perfect. Oh, I'm also going to do a workout. Oh, I'm also going to read that book that I wanted to read. Oh, I want to watch that TV show. What happens when we have ridiculous high standards is we want to do 110% at everything, but the math is not mathing. So that means you're always beating yourself up for letting things fall, letting things slip. And the solution with this is really truly focusing on your values. Okay, how do I want to embody my life? What are the core areas of life that I want to be working on? And we pick 3 of them at a time. We get those to a level, and then we move on to the next 3. The problem with high standards is you want everything to be at a level 10, 100% at all times without understanding that seasons are going to come and go in your life. Sometimes you might be working on your relationship. Sometimes you might be working on your health. Sometimes you might be really diving deep, focusing on business or schooling. So you want to allow time and space to not have to be perfect and do everything at 110%. So now let's talk about how to fix these patterns, because that's what you're here for, right? You're like, yeah, I know, I've got a lot of problems. Or you're like, please don't tell me about my problems. It feels horrible. One of the first steps to transformation is self-awareness. And self-awareness is just taking down notes, looking at what's not going well, and also looking at what's going well. But for a perfectionist, people pleaser, high achiever, it can feel really painful to look at the things that aren't going well because you obviously wish that they were going better. But I want you to know, seeing it and having the courage and honesty to look at it is the first step. So just the fact that you're here watching this, you're following along, you're thinking about your own life, you're thinking about these own patterns, you're already winning. This is one of the things I teach, is to always be celebrating your wins, to always be noticing the progress that you're making, even if that progress feels kind of bad right now. And it's very similar to working out, right? The first 2 weeks of getting back into a workout, you're extremely sore. It's extremely hard. The weights feel really heavy. Your cardio is really hard and your heart's beating really fast. But then you get to that 3rd week and you're like, oh, I feel a little stronger. Oh, I feel like I can do cardio for a little bit longer. So it's getting through this first process of awareness and then taking the baby steps to move to the next step. So the first step in solving this is letting yourself be seen. And I say this with a caveat. You want to be seen by a safe person. For some of you, If you're below baseline, and below baseline is like, you're struggling getting out of bed. You know that you are experiencing panic attacks. Like you're below the level of functioning in your day-to-day life. And if that's where you're at, I say go seek out a therapist. Now, if you're functioning, but you're just like, I just want things to be better in these areas and I notice some patterns and I want to work through them, then I would invite you into a life coaching consultation. Because as a life coach, I don't judge you. I don't judge you at all. What I help you do is say the things out loud that you maybe have said to no one else, admit things out loud, either your thoughts about others or things you wish were going right, but they're not, or like your biggest dreams. Like some people, when they get on a consultation with me, they haven't even said their dreams out loud to another human other than in their journal because they were so afraid what other people were going to think about it. Like if you want to be a fire person in Zimbabwe, great. If you want to be a puppeteer in San Francisco, great. It doesn't matter. There's no judgment. But it's like, if that's what you desire, let's make a plan to get you there. And then let's make a plan to address what other people are going to think about you in that decision. But step number one, let yourself be seen by a trusted life coach who can hold space for you and to develop the self acceptance to begin saying what you want and what you need and really saying your vision, your dreams, and goals out loud. On that consultation, you will actually learn that you're doing better than you think. Because one of the side effects of being a people pleaser, perfectionist, high achiever is we have really high standards. We think we should be doing better. And then I want you to just think about milestone birthdays, right? So milestone birthdays are like 30, 40, 50, 60. And we typically, things get real tricky when we have those birthdays because we have a preconceived notion of where we think we should be by then. And so coaching is really valuable as we age and get older and as we had this plan and helping us realign ourselves and realize like all is not lost. If we're not exactly where we want to be yet, we're okay. It's never too late to get started. It's never too late to try again. It's never too late to continue that dream or pivot. Okay. So we want to understand that you're probably doing better than you think, but we also want to clear up that emotional drama that you have. So step one, let yourself be seen by a coach. If you're under baseline, by a therapist. And my consultation process is amazing because you at least know that you're taking a step forward, whether we work together or not. So step one, reach out, like realize the dream. Now, what do we actually do in this process? I mentioned three things at the very start. It's self-love, self-acceptance, self-trust, self-validation. There's actually four things. Self-love is loving yourself no matter what. Even when you're failing, even when you're being bitchy, even when you're being resentful, even when you're not being quote unquote the best version of you, it's loving yourself no matter what. And for most people, that is something we really need to work on, is because we've been raised with conditional love. Conditional love is if you clean your bedroom, then I'll love you. If you don't talk back to me, then I'll love you. If you get straight A's, then I'll love you. If you're the number one athlete, then you will get love and acceptance. So we have learned to perform. We even have learned to perform like our FICO score, right? If you get to FICO score, you're going to get a low interest rate. Like it's literally we're graded in everything, even as adults. If if you get along with people at work, you'll get the promotion, even if you're not even the best qualified, right? It's really interesting to watch how society still plays this game with us of like, if people like you, then you succeed. But truly, when you love yourself, that's actually when you succeed. Because I've seen people out there in the world living for these jobs, getting laid off after 15, 20 years and not knowing what to do with themselves because they were living for somebody else's vision. They were just going through the motions. And so we want to identify, okay, how can I love myself exactly where I am? And how can I create a vision for my future that is loving? I like to think of a 10-year vision, a 5-year vision, a 3-year vision. Like I like to create a big vision so you know this is what I'm working on for the next decade. And let's get started on it now. Then we move on to self-acceptance. So self-love, self-acceptance are similar, right? Self-love is truly loving yourself no matter what, even when you make mistakes. Self-acceptance, I look at this as like all of the worst parts of you, all of your weaknesses, all of your mistakes you've made in the past, all of the decisions you've had in the past 30 years. It's accepting that it is what it is. It's accepting that you made the decisions. It's accepting that, you might have some personality traits that are interesting and we can either work on them or we can just accept them. One of the things I accepted over being alive for 41 years is I'm messy. Like I'm just a messy person. I like collecting things. I have a lot of clothes. I have a lot of shoes. And for a while, like I wanted to feel shame about that because people around me said that like you should be clean. And I agree. I like having a clean home, but I don't want to be the one to do it. So I've learned to accept that about myself and I learned to hire people to come in and clean the house, to come in and organize. And every so often I'll declutter, but I like my things. And so I just found out that having shame around that is not going to help me. So I want you to think about that for yourself too. Is there something that you're constantly beating yourself up over? We want to work on that self-acceptance. Then we want to talk about self-trust. So self-trust is you making decisions and trusting yourself to follow through on them. And this is where worrying what other people think will cause a big problem. Because if you go and tell your friend, your cousin, your auntie, your next door neighbor, your high school best friend, and they say, ooh, I don't think that's going to work out. Let's just say you want to get chickens. I don't care. It doesn't matter. It could be something small. I want to get chickens. And they start talking you out of it. Do you have enough self-trust and determination to say, no, I'm doing this. And if it messes up and if it goes wrong, I'll deal with the consequences. But I'm doing this because I trust myself. And this is what I believe I'm supposed to do. I'm going to do it. It's really developing self-trust. And then it's developing resilience for when you fail or it's inevitable or things go wrong. And maybe there is a situation where somebody's like, I told you so. And maybe they were actually right. But you're like, I also trust myself to get through this failure, this boo-boo, this mistake. We need to develop self-trust and resilience for you to get through life. And then the final one is self-validation. So this is when you stop seeking somebody else to tell you, good job, you're doing a great job, and you start getting it from within. One of the main ways I do this with my clients is every call we start with 3 wins. And then what we do is we break down your goals into tiny, tiny, tiny actionable steps. And then we celebrate and validate ourselves for when we achieve those steps. The problem with perfectionists, high achievers, people pleasers is, again, they're trying to be perfect in everything. They're trying to do everything for everyone. And typically what happens is they feel really overwhelmed by like big projects or big things or like a big system that they have to move forward on. And so by breaking it down into tiny little tasks that we celebrate, this gives you energy. It stops you from beating yourself up. You build momentum. And then before you know it, in 3 months or so, you're like, oh my gosh, I like did this whole thing. And I've done this with life coaching clients where they're like, I'm trying to work out again. And instead of them joining a gym, driving 30 minutes into town, going to an hour class, like instead of going all in, right? Typically they're doing all or nothing. I'm like, you have a bike at home. What if you just went into the room and you got on the bike for 5 minutes? And the brain's like, no, that's dumb. That's not going to do anything. But guess what? Within 2 weeks, my client was on the bike riding for 30 minutes because we set the bar so low in the beginning. So that is counterintuitive, but it works. It's proven by psychology. It's called Tiny Habits by BJ Fogg. He's a PhD. And this is what I use with my clients to help to get those things into place. Same thing with my business owners. If they're looking to be consistent on social media, I don't tell them, hey, I need you to start posting 7 days a week. What we start with is, what is the easiest thing to do? Is it a story? Is it a carousel? Is it a post? Is it a video? Is it an email? Let's just do one thing and then we'll celebrate it next week and then we'll pick the next thing to do. So those are the 4 things that are going to solve people pleasing, worrying about what other people think, trying to be perfect, and beating yourself up. Now, I would call them overarching themes, and there are specific ways that we do this in our coaching. I've shared a little bit of that with you today, but I wanted to give you that as a framework for you to use for yourself, to start thinking about, to start considering. And that is enough for you to get started. You could take this, you could go off, you could really start thinking about like, how can I speak more kindly to myself? How can I break things down into smaller steps? How can I celebrate and validate myself more, right? You can start to action this right now today and actually start to get some results with this. Now, what I also tell people, and my clients have told me this, there is a difference between watching a YouTube video, getting some inspiration in the moment, implementing it. There's a difference between that and having somebody supporting you for 6 months, every week, taking step by step, moving forward, hand in hand every week. There's a big difference. And the difference is there's something called the Dunning-Kruger effect. And this was been created by Dunning and Kruger. It's a psychological effect that in the beginning of everything, and you know this because this happens in January with everyone, with their health and fitness. In the beginning, we have really high energy, right? Passion, excitement. We're like, I want to change. I want to do this. I'm going to go all in. And then what happens is we hit a roadblock, we hit a stumbling block. We realize, ooh, like maybe I don't know what to do here. And then our energy drops. We start to lose that self confidence and we fall into what's called the river of misery or the valley of despair. And that's usually when we give up. We're like, well, I guess I'm just not meant to break through this. I guess this is it. It's just too hard for me. And we just never move past that point because we're like down here in our emotions, we're down here in our energy, and we're down here with our skills. Like we actually don't have the skill to move forward. We need to learn it. So the way coaching helps you is it helps you get through that part. Because I tell people like to make transformation in your health, your fitness, your relationships, your career, your business, your marketing, your spirituality, your adventure, travel, environment, whatever it is, the minimum time it takes is 6 months. Because what's going to happen is we'll have high excitement at the beginning. Right in the middle, we'll start to be like, I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's working. I'm beating myself up. It doesn't feel right. But that's just because we're building a new identity. This is who the person is that you're becoming. And your brain will want to fight for sameness, right? Like even if you're miserable, your brain is like, nope, let's stay here. Feels great. We're already here because we know about it. When we're creating something new, the brain fights in the middle of that transformation because it's like, I don't know, it doesn't feel safe over here. Who would I be if I didn't have all these stories? Who would I be if I didn't have all these limitations? Who would I be if I wasn't spending all my time people pleasing this one person and giving them all my energy? Because then what if I could put all my energy into my business actually? And then what if I put my energy into my business and then I still failed? So sometimes these things are in our brains to help us from failing because we're like, well, so and so really needs me to do this for them. So and so's taking my energy. But think about what it would take if you set some boundaries with people. You set some limitations with people. You maybe started spending less time with those people, less energy on those people, what that would create for you, right? But that's the hard part that requires somebody to help you as your brain is changing. So then what happens is we take step by step. You bring any challenge to coaching, the hard parts, the wins. And then what happens is we start climbing back up the other side of the mountain, piece by piece, brick by brick, slowly, slowly. And I say slowly, slowly, and then instantly. So I'll give you an example. What happens on the other side when you reach the other side after 6 months is your competence is really high. You're like, oh my gosh, I've just learned so much about myself. I've developed self-trust, self-acceptance, self-validation, self-love. I'm making decisions based on my vision, my values. I'm into a new identity. Like I feel amazing. I feel different. And you've reached the other edge of that peak, the other edge of that mountain. Your competence is high. Your confidence is high. Your energy is high. But you had to go through that middle part. And that middle part, in my experience, isn't solved by YouTube videos or podcasts or audiobooks. They're all great. I always recommend listening to them. I tell my clients to listen to them. I give my clients recommendations. But there is something about being witnessed in your low vibrational state, in your suffering state, in your story state, being willing to be seen and be vulnerable. Like, this is what I want to work on. I don't feel comfortable. Like, ugh, I want to throw up. I don't really want to talk about it. And I have the courage to talk about it. I have the courage to work on it. I have the courage to take step by step every single week. And that is what builds this energy and momentum and builds you a new life and a new identity. And I'm just thinking about a handful of clients now to really think about what can happen for you in 6 months. I had a client at the beginning of our coaching. We were just working on self-love. She was learning how to let somebody else clean her house because she thought she had to do it, even though she had back pain. And then we transitioned into her going into the dating scene. And our coaching ended with her being engaged and married and now living the retired life and traveling. So this is what is possible for coaching, right? And she was caught up in these people-pleasing codependent relationships. And what transformed is her learning how to have conversations with her new partner in a way that advocates for her feelings, but in a way that was non-emotional or non-combative. She learned that skill. I had another client who just could not be consistent at social media. And she's amazing. She's brilliant. She's a great speaker, but she felt weird, like most people do, on camera. She's like, I just feel weird on camera. I feel like I have to record it 17 times. I have to review it. It takes me an hour to post it. And I gave her a challenge to just post trash. And trash is just all in your head. It was still good, but I just told her, like, you're going to have to allow your brain to be like, yeah, this is really bad. and then I'm going to post it anyway. And what happened is she got really good, really confident at it. Clients started coming. She was making money. She was getting clients from posting on social media. And now she just does it multiple times a week without thinking about it. It doesn't take any energy at all. And I have to remind her, I'm like, do you remember where you were when we first started? You were like, absolutely not. And I taught her, I said, hey, we're going to start doing trainings and webinars and masterclasses and workshops. And she's like, I don't know about that. And now she just does one every month. She's like, yeah, I just do it. And it comes easier now because I keep doing it. And so it's this ability to have somebody to hold you accountable, to be there for your emotions whenever you're like, I don't want to, I'd rather not, right? That is the value of having a life coach. Life coach is always forward focused. It's always about three things. It's always about your mindset. It's always about your emotional state, processing emotions. And then it's always about your future goals. What is it that we're working on? Because the human brain is innately lazy. It wants to focus on today, and it doesn't want to focus on next year or next month. And it doesn't want to like do little tiny consistent things over and over again. It wants to like go all in and do the exciting thing. But the way to get progress is to do little things repeatedly over time consistently. And the best way I know how to do that, that's how I've built my life, that's how I built my business, is to have a coach that you're meeting with consistently that's holding you to that new identity standard and that's teaching you these processes of self-love, self-trust, self-validation, and self-acceptance. These are the keys to stop worrying about what people think. And then you can learn the skills of better communication, boundaries, being able to advocate for yourself in alignment with your vision and your values. So if you like this training, if you're like, wow, this is giving me a lot, this is a lot to unpack, I would invite you to book a consultation with me because this is where we can unpack all of this for you specifically. When we go through, I give you a 60-minute consultation. When we go through that, we do a personalized life assessment for you. We see where you're at in your life. And then what I'm doing is looking for your step-by-step process where I'm like, okay, this is what we need to work on first, then this, and then this. And that'll give you a big picture of, okay, here's the goal. Here's how we're going to get to the goal. And here's how long I think it'll take. For all of my clients, I say, let's start with 6 months. If you're a business owner client, I always tell business owners to think about like a year long at a time because business is different. You're working on your personal life and you're working on your business. And those are two skill sets that interrelate, but we need to work on both of them. So reach out to me to book a consultation. I'm telling you, when you do this, even if we don't coach together, even if you're like, it's not a good fit for whatever reason, you'll walk away with information. You'll walk away with clarity. You'll actually feel energized because you were courageous. You said, I want to take a look at this stuff. I want somebody to witness me, see me, hear me. I want to say my vision. I want to say what I want. And then I want to get a plan of how to get there. And when you walk away from that call, you will walk away with value, information that you didn't have before. And you can take that, do with it what you want, or you can decide to work together if it's a good fit. But either way, you're going to walk away winning. Like there's always progress to be made. And even if you're a high achiever, even if you're a perfectionist, even if you're like, I'm doing really well, I've had clients with me coming with multi-million-dollar businesses that say, something's missing. Like I just want to feel more grounded and they want to work on their spiritual life. So we can work on anything in life coaching. That's the beauty of it. And then we just focus on that for a 6-month period of time. Then we reassess every 6 months. What are we working on? Right? And some people, I say this, some people will get huge results in 6 months. They're like, I did it. I'm done. I feel like I've done it. Congrats. Then some people are like, I want to keep going because I have bigger goals. I want to work on this now. I had somebody who came to me with relationship codependency issues. We worked on that for 6 months. Then we started working on his business and talking about like, hey, how can we create more income, revenue streams? How can we hire on a part-time assistant? So this is the value and beauty of having somebody there with you. We can coach together. I think my longest client was with me for 4 years. So that's available for you starting at 6 months. You can do a lot in 6 months and walk away completely transformed and changed. And I want to talk to you because this is my favorite thing to do. Life coaching is what has shaped me. Truly. Life coaching is what has shaped me. It's the thing that I've been doing for 15 years. 2015 was when I hired my first coach. I joined my first mastermind. So that was 11 years ago. And it's amazing to see what happens in your psychology, in your results, in your life, in your relationships, when you're consistently working joyfully on growth and expansion. It really does make life feel like it's worth living because you are taking the lessons, learning them, integrating them, sharing them with others, And this is also truly, I believe, how the world gets to be a better place. So head over to my website right now, camikennedy.vip. I'll put the link below as well. Book a consultation. I am looking forward to talking to you and connecting with you. I'll see you there.